Welcome to Mining Over Canada. Join the Canadian Securities Exchange and our partners in a first-hand look into our country's vast mining landscape. Hi, welcome to Mining Over Canada. I'm your host, Barrington Miller, and today I'm here with Don Duval, CEO of NORCAT. Don, welcome to Mining Over Canada.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about NORCAT. This segment that I'm hosting is actually representing Ontario, and you have a sort of unique business that's going on. Tell us about it.
Yeah. I'll answer that question by kind of, sharing the perspectives, kind of dividing NORCAT into two halves, if I may. So, and I'll align them to kind of our aspirational priorities as an organization. And, I appreciate the introductory comment where it is a unique and interesting organization. Sometimes potentially defined as a wonky organization, but nonetheless, very interesting. So first, we aspire to be the global leader in all that is skilled labor training and development. And very deliberately omitted from that aspirational goal is mining. And the reason for that is we aspire to be the global leader in skilled labor training and development, not only for mining, but also in construction, forestry, and other kind of resource-based or legacy industries that have a skilled labor component. Within that mandate, we're quite unique in that we offer a variety of different methods of training. So in that business, we develop original content curriculum, but beyond that, as a training and development institute or organization, we have unique capabilities to deliver training in traditional instructor-led classroom-based training. We can deliver training through engaged online learning. We have a pretty sophisticated group within NORCAT called Studio NORCAT, where we develop original IP associated with learning technologies using augmented reality, virtual reality, equipment simulation training. But what's quite unique about that, from a blended learning, we also offer hands-on experiential training in our own underground operating mine. So there's no other skilled labor training and development organization, especially serving the global mining industry, that has the unique capability of experienced trainers, experienced content curriculum developers who understand the pedagogical sciences of building sophisticated and enhanced training programs. But we're also even more so unique that we can offer training in a variety of different ways, including hands-on training in our underground operating mine. Now, coupling that, we also have a division within NORCAT that serves as a regional innovation center. And in that aspirational mandate, we work with community partners to either help start and or accelerate the growth of scalable tech-oriented companies. And given our geography being in Northern Ontario, you could appreciate the vast amount of tech clients that come to NORCAT are building technologies that are ultimately going to serve the global mining industry. So we have an array of programs and services that can help these tech companies, such as access to a venture capital fund. We have a fairly sophisticated and robust angel network. We offer mentorship programs and advisory, market research services, access to talent, customers, and markets. But underpinning that, we are the only regional innovation center in the world that owns and operates an underground mine with the intent and purpose to support these tech companies with a place to develop and test, so do R&D oriented work on their tech companies. But once the technology has been commercialized and the intellectual property has been, kind of clarified and finalized and protected, those same tech companies can use our underground mine site as a demonstration showcase center to really, demonstrate to the global mining community, here's our emerging technology, and here's how they work in an operating mine environment. So by default, for many of the tech companies that we support that are building technologies for the mining industry, we have an underground operating mine that serves as their first all-important reference customer. So they can build a narrative to then say to the next prospective customer, yeah, of course we have a customer. It's NORCAT. Come see it, touch it, feel it in the operating mine environment.
You know how amazing that whole thing that you talked about is. I don't even know where to start from the, what, I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to work backwards from you have an operating mine that people can actually get training, hands-on training, which means they don't need to be hired by a company. And that company then puts them in the field and hopes that they are successful, and they can come to your place, come to your program, learn how to
Yeah.
train in a safe environment. What happens to the materials that are actually mined? What?
Yeah, so not unlike a traditional underground operating mining cycle, we drill, blast, muck. We have a pile of ore that accumulates. We have an offtake agreement with Glencore, one of the world's largest mining companies, that picks up the ore. There's a transaction, a very modest one at that, because the quality of the ore body, to clarify, the quality of the ore body, really is uneconomical to mine from a large scale production perspective. So
Right.
our labor force essentially are trainees that are doing the mining cycle. So they're paying us a tuition fee to drill, blast, and muck. That excavated rock is accumulated. It is then sold and acquired by Glencore for downstream processing.
Okay.
So it's a quite a unique asset from that perspective. And your question kind of also segues into, the gap that we fill, is to provide those, would-be or prospective mine workers with kind of the core fundamental baseline knowledge as to, what are the skills and competencies and confidence areas that a new mine worker would need in this day and age to, be appropriately prepared for a long and meaningful and sustainable career in the mining industry. Some of the
Right.
programs we offer are regulated programs specifically for the province of Ontario, but many other programs we have are the result of working with global mining companies with operations in everywhere from Latin America to Africa to, Asia, that will work with us to develop a customized curriculum. And we have the trainers, we have the equipment, we have the facilities where we can then build a program that's custom to meet the needs of the new hires or existing hires if they're looking for upskilling within those mining companies to get those individuals to an enhanced level of competency and confidence in whatever skill set that we're training them on.
How many people are currently at NORCAT?
We're trending company wide. Keep in
Yeah.
mind we have 6 locations, 5 in Ontario, 1 in Latin America. We're just under 80 employees.
And the type of training, and I had this conversation with Anna Sarin, who is spearheading Mining Over Canada. Shout out to Anna.
Yeah.
Uh, the people that are now that are coming to see you, are they younger? Are they female? Are they uh, non-white? Like, are you seeing a more diverse student body because you are a classroom of
Yeah,
sorts?
absolutely. And across our I'll call them various campuses, we call them office locations, especially across those in Northern Ontario and one in the GTA. Keep in mind we train tens of thousands of individuals per year. So there's a material population that views NORCAT in our training and development programs of significant value, and we continue to grow
Yes.
year over year. So that's great news. If you look at the demographical trends specific to mining, especially in the last 5 years, we have seen a pretty significant increase in both women and Indigenous populations, either directly engaging NORCAT to get the fundamental credentials to be prepared for a would-be career in the Ontario or Canadian mining industry more broadly. But beyond that, kind of self-push by those populations to get, the right credentials to be, appealing for employment in the mining industry. We're also seeing the mining industry, more specifically in Ontario, more of our backyard, where I can comment with a little bit more, credibility. We're seeing those mining companies with strategic priorities very deliberately to engage workers in Indigenous communities where many of these operating mines are, as you know, engage more women in the workforce, and underpinned by a stronger, diversity commitment to diversity within their workforce. So our engagement and training of those populations has seen a dramatic increase, hundreds and hundreds of percent year over year increase in training those populations. Again, in part driven by the companies that have already hired them and then reach out to NORCAT to build custom training programs, and/or individuals, again, self-identifying, if I want to be, employable, it is worth my while to get these skills to have the, kind of a better resume, if you will, to potentially be hired by these mining companies. So absolutely, we're seeing a pretty interesting transition with the demographics being employed in the Ontario and Canadian mining industry.
How did this start? Where did this come from? It's like, this is amazing.
Yeah, well, we have a long-standing history. We've been in business for close to 25 years now. And the root of the business at the time was around training and development and health and safety training. Very much focused on the Sudbury market,
Yep.
very much focused on local mining companies and or local mine contractors. I can say that business model continued for, the better part of the first 15 or so years. And then in the last, I would say 10 years, we recognize that, we are well positioned to make the declaration, maybe not so much then, but over the last 5 to 7 years, that we are the global leader in all that is skilled labor training and development for the mining industry. And we make that declaration based on, a 25-year history in doing so, the depth and breadth of our trainers, quality of experience, quality of feedback from the trainees and the customers that we support. So as we were kind of building that narrative and that foundation, we then said, what a great platform for us to take this, globally. So small origins, if you will, and
Yeah.
it shredded that way for the better part of the first 15 years. But there was recognition, probably in the last 8 to 10 years that we have something really special here, something really meaningful. And that was hence part of the rationale for the investments to expand into the Timmins market, Thunder Bay, Onaping. We have an office in the GTA. And, concurrent to all of that, we opened up operations in Latin America and have an array of delivery partners where we do similar activities as we do here in serving Canada and the province of Ontario more specifically. But we do so in a bit of a different business model serving the Latin American market. And, metaphorically speaking, not to steal from BTO, but you ain't seen nothing yet. We are currently at 80 employees, 6 locations, and we have pretty assertive plans that have been a bit put on pause given the current global state of affairs. But, with the foundation and the history and the capabilities that we have, we see significant opportunities for continued growth in our business.
Now, I want to get into a bit of the business side of the business.
Sure.
Do you take on some of these companies, whether it's their IP or some of their shares or services, swapping services? Do you invest into some of these companies?
Yeah, great question.
How does it work?
Yeah, great question. So no, short answer is NORCAT, the parent company, is structured as a nonprofit organization. So we do have some constraints, not so much from a governance or fiduciary oversight perspective, but there's some cultural nuances that as a nonprofit organization, we are here to do, meaningful impact. And if you think of the mandate of the Skilled Labor Training and Development Division, our objective there is to ensure that workers are both productive and safe on the job all day, every day. That is how we measure collective success. Now, it doesn't restrict the fact that as a nonprofit, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't make money. So of course we do, and we have, targets for margin and revenue and managing OpEx and all those variables. But what's quite unique about us, even though we're structured as a nonprofit, quite proudly, we ensure that our communities know that as an organization operationally, less than 5 to 7% of our operating revenue year over year comes from government grants. Meaning, by definition, in the eyes of from a general accounting perspective, if I call it that, we are deemed a private company. So we have to sell, we have to demonstrate value, we have a ton of competitors, we have very limited government funding to rely upon. So, we are a fairly, robust, growing, successful private company that receives a very small portion of our operating revenue funded by government, which actually is our innovation center, which is where most of those funds go. But on the skilled labor training and development, make no mistake, our business model is fee for service. We charge tuition-like fees.
Yeah.
We have an advisory / consultancy group that works on human capital strategy, talent management strategy, understanding training needs within both mining companies and other companies in other industries around the world. We have something called Studio NORCAT, which is our VR, AR equipment simulation studio where, we can work with clients to say, hey, part of the content curriculum that we have developed, we can deliver a virtual reality pre-operational circle check on an LHD to build that baseline skill and competency using remote learning technologies to build confidence that when that individual has completed that module, how great is it that we can put them in an actual equipment simulator to move that physical piece of equipment, get them some classroom-based instruction, and
You
then,
have you have Flight Simulator
we
for all
do.
of those who used to play video games.
100%. And then at the conclusion of all of that interesting technology, we can then put them on that physical, that the same asset, that physical piece of equipment underground in our operating mine. So when those individuals come out of this, they have, the competence and the confidence to operate that equipment in a really unique, interesting way. So again, it's an organization, going back to the original narrative, rooted in small origins, that is now leveraging their foundation and trying to make a global impact.
How many companies do you have in your, I guess, currently under your technology and innovation center?
Yeah, so if I migrate to, well, so NORCAT as a kind of the parent company, has different entities within it. We have the NORCAT training and development, which we've been speaking about for the most part.
Yep.
We have Studio NORCAT, which is our, entity that focuses on the development of original IP and learning technologies that can blend in with the other message of training. We have the NORCAT Underground Center, which is the brand for our underground operating mine that supports both our innovation mandate and our training and development mandate.
And that's the one in Sudbury.
That's the one just outside of the core of Sudbury. It's in the
Okay.
city of Greater Sudbury. It's primarily branded as being in the town of Onaping or Levack. It's
Oh, okay.
5-minute drive from downtown Sudbury. We have an advisory services group within, so that's an in-house consultancy that works with mining companies around the world to assess human capital needs and strategies, develop strategies. And then we have NORCAT Innovation, which is, I'm sure we'll migrate to that in a moment here, but that is our designate brand for our role as a regional innovation center, whereby we work with community partners to either help start or accelerate the growth of innovative tech companies. Given our geography, the vast amount of them are tech-oriented. Our unique value proposition within that mandate is that we have this unique asset, this global one-stop shop for all that is the future of mining, which is our underground mine, to enable these tech companies to develop and test and or demonstrate and showcase technologies that are poised to transform the global mining industry.
That's amazing. No, I love it. I haven't heard anything even close to this.
Well, and it's interesting, interesting, Barrington, in that, we've heavily invested in our underground mine to be this, call it an active laboratory or, again, one-stop shop. And part of the rationale as to why we've been making significant investments in our underground mine to serve as this place to enable tech companies to, develop, test, and ultimately demonstrate and showcase was actually rooted in some pretty rigorous, albeit anecdotal, rigorous surveys with both mining tech companies and mining companies over the last 5 to 7 years. And we embarked on a fairly rigorous survey trying to better understand, why does it take the mining industry so seemingly so long to procure, adopt, and deploy emerging technologies into their operation? And initially, we had a hypothesis that the mining industry has an innovation problem. There just isn't enough innovation out there that is available to support and be adopted by the mining industry. And through our analysis and surveys, we discovered that the mining industry does not have an innovation problem. The mining industry has a technology adoption problem. And a lot of the root of that, when we interviewed the builders of innovation, which are the tech companies, and concurrently interviewed the buyers of innovation, which are the mining companies, the similar answers to similar questions, whereby, why is it taking so long for you, the tech company, to sell into the mining industry? And mining company, why is it taking you so long to buy? And what we discovered is that a lot of the tech companies struggled because the mining companies would ask, well, hey, can we come see your first installation? Or can we come to visit a site where we can actually have a referenceable client that you have to really validate the claims of your technology upon installation? And many of these small emerging tech companies selling into mining, they're struggled with trying to get a large mining company to pause on production, pause on operations so they could come in, do their sales show in an underground production drift, whereby it's not realistic. It's just too, imagine being a mining company and having that
Yeah.
request multiple times per day. So our investment was, well, if we can provide a place that has operating mine status, and we adhere to all the regulatory requirements, we're, a sanctioned operating mine in the province, it by default solves that first customer problem for many of our clients. For many existing larger tech companies that are selling into other industries, now they can have an installation site where they can bring the mining companies to see it, touch it, feel it in an operating mine environment. And we have validated in the, from a, I'll call it rudimentary psychology of procurement, that a delegation of mining executives working with the tech company in an underground environment, standing in front of the technology, if they could see it, touch it, feel it in an operating mine environment, not a gymnasium, not a backfield, not on a laboratory in a lab facility, if they could see it, touch it, feel it in an operating mine environment, we have data that justifies it will enhance a decision to potentially procure it, which then drives procurement subsequent to adoption and then subsequent to a deployment. So we've been really heavily investing in that asset because it solves a really unique problem, not just in the Canadian mining industry, but the global mining industry.
It makes so much sense because you see it in, and I'm thinking of firemen that train, and I've seen close to where I live, they have like a training center where this building will go up in flames. Nobody's in it, obviously, but it's a training. Or when you go and get your license, you can train in a simulated city street and all of those things. And to make it, you're not only making people that are in this industry better, is you're making it safer.
100%.
It's
100%. And what's interesting, and by doing so, we are aspiring to be, that global one-stop shop for all that is the future of mining. And the analogy I can give you, if you're a mining executive sitting anywhere in the world and you want to have your finger on the pulse of what's next, what technologies are poised to transform the global mining industry, we are trying to incentivize them to, save for the current state of affairs, get on a plane, fly into Sudbury, come to the NORCAT Underground Center, tour the proverbial underground hallways, if you will, see the emerging technologies, engage with the tech entrepreneurs who will physically be organized to be there, and understand what's next. And bring your innovation themes and priorities, and we'll curate a tour to satisfy that, to ensure you get the most out of it. And that notion of being this one-stop shop really is predicated on materiality of activity. And I can tell you one thing we're extremely proud about is, again, save for this year, given the pandemic, each of the last successive 3 consecutive years, we've hosted over 50 global mining delegations who come to our facility, almost one a week, that come to our facility with innovation themes and priorities that they're interested in, trying to get smart on what they need to know is in the ecosystem. Complementing that, we've done about 50 projects per year for the last 3 consecutive years from tech companies. Now, fully appreciate a company coming in for a 1-day drift rental to test an autonomous drone is one project. And in addition, a company that rents a dedicated underground drift for a year is also one project. So they vary in terms of duration and length. But the materiality of activity is helping elevate the brand of Ontario and Canada more broadly. If you want to know what's next in mining, here's the destination where you see it. And that's what we're really pushing hard, and why we're making the investments that we're doing, why we're engaging the clients that we want to engage to get their feedback to inform incremental improvements. That's what we aspire to be, that global one-stop shop, both on the training and development side and on the technology and innovation side.
Don, on that note, because I can't top that, I'm going to say thank you on behalf of the Canadian Securities Exchange, as well as Mining Over Canada. You just got an inside look into what's going on in Ontario with NORCAT and their CEO, Don Duval.
Thank you.